What's on your radar, Ryan?
The New York Times has obtained more than 2,000 pages of documents connected to the jailhouse death of Jeffrey Epstein. And they're reporting that what they found does not support the notion that he was assassinated. It doesn't disprove it either. And recently, a few folks on the internet noticed quite a coincidence, one I wanted to take a closer look at. What they noticed is this. It turns out that the same attorney who was appointed by the court to represent Jeffrey Epstein's one-time cellmate is now representing Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The attorney, Bobby Sternheim, was appointed to represent Nicholas Tartaglione, a former police officer charged with multiple homicides, including a strangulation. So I checked it out, and in fact, it checks out. Sternheim was indeed appointed on August 21st, 2019 to represent Tartaglione, according to court records. I spoke with another of Tartaglione's attorneys, Bruce Barquette, and he confirmed Sternheim was assigned to the case. Epstein died, if you'll recall, on August 10th, 2019, 11 days before Sternheim was named to represent Tartaglione. Now, Sternheim didn't respond to a request for comment, but there's no question that she remains the lead attorney for Maxwell and speaks to the press on her behalf. What makes this interesting to people following the case is that the New York Post previously reported Epstein told his attorneys that Tartaglione attacked him in their cell. So on July 23rd, Tartaglione claimed to have found his cellmate Epstein unconscious with bruise marks on his neck and said that he tried to assist him and called for help. At the time, jail authorities said it was unclear whether Epstein had attempted to harm himself or had been the victim of an assault, and that an investigation would be conducted. I asked Barquette about that, and he said he doubted the story was accurate and may have been planted in the New York Post by a prison guard angry at him for complaining about the deplorable conditions at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. Barquette said that the day before Epstein died, he got an email from the jail saying that Tartaglione would not be disciplined as a result of the incident on July 23rd, and he subsequently was provided the underlying reports related to it. He said they were confidential and could not share them with me. Epstein and Tartaglione regularly walked from their cell to the visiting area together, and Barquette said that he would often enter the prison along with the Epstein attorneys because they were on the same schedule. He said, quote, "From my conversations with the lawyers, they got along real well. I'd be surprised if they later claimed that Nick attacked him because that just wasn't what we were kind of told all along." Now, if Epstein did make that claim, said Barquette, the goal may have been to get removed from suicide watch, and he said he has, quote, "no doubt that Epstein killed himself." So Tartaglione faces charges in the killing of 4 people, one of which he allegedly strangled with a zip tie. Julie Brown, whose reporting in the Miami Herald helped bring Epstein down, dug deeper into the relationship between Epstein and Tartaglione, outlining potential scenarios in which Tartaglione was involved in Epstein's death. Quote, "Depending on which account you read, his cellmate, a corrupt former cop named Nicholas Tartaglione, had either tried to kill Epstein or he had prevented Epstein from hanging himself," writes Brown in her new book, Perversion of Justice. Brown noted that surveillance video of the incident disappeared and that Tartaglione had an illegal cell phone, but that authorities had not released its contents. Barquette told me that he didn't know why Sternheim herself was appointed by the court, but that, quote, "there was an issue as to one or more attorneys had a conflict of interest," unquote. Sternheim is no longer on Tartaglione's legal team and did not play a substantive role, he said. Quote, "She fulfilled her responsibilities as what we would refer to as cursio counsel. She didn't do anything substantively," he said. At a bare minimum, even if you fully believe that Tartaglione helped rather than tried to hurt Epstein, it's wild that prison officials put the country's most important prisoner, the keeper of the types of secrets that could unravel a network of global elites involved in child sex trafficking, in a cell with a former cop charged with killing 4 people and strangling one of them. That we now know that Tartaglione and Maxwell share an attorney is even wilder. It's almost like they want people to lose their minds. It's like,
yeah.
Here's another question though. So everybody focuses on the was it suicide or was it homicide? Mm-hmm. But that misses a key question, which would be, what if they were completely fine with him committing suicide? Mm-hmm. And if you start from that assumption that they were okay with him ending his life, then everything that they did fits.
Yeah, well, they were okay with him ending his life. They're okay with anyone dying in prison. People die in prison all the time. Yeah, let's put the high-value detainee lock him in a room with a homicidal maniac who strangles people. Sure, what could go wrong? Like, they don't care.
What could go wrong? For them, nothing can go wrong. Only can go right.
Right, and that's why I do think he probably killed himself. I think the indifference in the system makes this perfectly plausible. Everything people say, oh, the cameras weren't working. The cameras are never working. The guards were sleeping. Well, they're lazy. They're bad. They're underpaid. They're not good at their jobs. This is how, very unfortunately, this is how prison works. The conditions are appalling. The supervision is arbitrary and cruel when it is present. So I don't know. You're right. It's interesting, and I understand why people. This was a person who clearly had a lot of information that a lot of people would not have wanted him to produce. So we should continue to look at it and continue to gather more information. But it's not. You don't have to think that that's the only thing that could happen. The indifference is part of the system, and people die in prison all the time because it's horrible.
Yeah. There's a new piece in the Daily Beast from a prisoner whose material appeared in the New York Times documents that they published yesterday, and he makes the argument. He's just like, there's no way that somebody could have gotten in and out of there.
Right.
And secondly, this place was so incompetently run that they would never have been able to facilitate like a conspiracy.
That's
magnitude. That if they wanted to kill him, the better thing to do would have been to do exactly what they did.
Yes.
And they were supposed to have another roommate with him that day. So August 9th. So when they moved him from the allegedly homicidal, 4-person killer, corrupt cop who strangled somebody with a zip tie, when they moved him out of that situation, they put another agent, a federal asset, some type of informer with him. That person was moved out on August 9th, and they were supposed to put another roommate in. Lo and behold, they don't put another roommate in. A combination of, perhaps incompetence or perhaps willful indifference, with the entire system and everybody's interests aligned that he kill himself, and then the cops, the guards don't check on him. And he's dead by the morning. We know that.
But like you said, right, they're not going to be able to smuggle someone into the prison to kill.
Well, I think they could.
Well, maybe they would not get away with it. It would be hard to get away with it.
It'd be easier to get away with putting him in a situation where he's very likely to kill himself.
The prison guards could have killed him. Another prisoner could have killed him. Those people don't really have the incentive to to silence Epstein, right? They're not.
Right.
But they also. But this is the key thing. They don't care whether he lives. The people who work in the prison don't care if he survived. He could have ticked them off for some reason, and they want him dead. Like the arbitrary cruelty going on in these types of environments. So the broader the global elite sent in some assassin to silence someone. I don't believe any of that.
And the Times notes that when he first got to Metropolitan Correctional Center, which is on its way to being shut down because it's so Dickensian, he was stuck in general population, and only later somebody flagged, like, hey, this is Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
And they're like, nobody told us. Like, they didn't even communicate to the prison, like, hey, we're sending the most important prisoner in the world.
People who are accused of sex crimes against children get killed in prison by other prisoners because that's seen as like an even more, it's seen as a crime that is appalling even to other criminals.
Which, if you think that they want him dead, it could also explain, just put this guy in Gen Pop.
See what happens.
See how this goes.
See what happens.
And if they don't kill him, let's continue to brutalize him to the point where he just commits suicide.
Right. Yep. That's all. Okay, I accept that.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. We solved the Epstein case. Good for us.
Well, yes. Looking forward to your radar up next.